Hi, this is Carly Peters, and this is going to be my discussion post 2. Question 1, taking a look at what I've learned this semester about interpersonal communication. Starting from the beginning, I feel like I had a good amount that I knew about my self-concept, like I knew how I felt about myself, but I didn't necessarily know the terms that went along with that, like image, identity, self-concept. Like I didn't know exactly the definitions of them, but I had like a good idea of how I perceived myself. I believe that through this class, I learned how to manage multiple identities better, which is definitely something that's important, especially moving forward in my career as well. Like, for instance, you don't necessarily always want to talk to your boss the way that you would your coworkers, for instance. That's just an example, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's good to know how to manage those multiple identities so that way you can use them to your advantage instead of against you. I also feel like I was able to take away a good amount from chapters 7 and 8, I believe it was, listening and emotions. I felt like I had a good amount that I knew coming into this about those two, which it turns out that I actually did not know nearly as much about emotions as I thought I did. I actually did pretty poorly on the reading facial expressions quiz from that chapter. And I expected myself to do a lot better, but I realized that I was actually struggling a lot with like movements of like the eyeballs and eyebrows. Like I wasn't necessarily struggling with like mouth expressions as much as I was like eyebrow and eye expressions. But I'm actually kind of glad that that happened because that got me to look into that a little more and focus on that more, so that way I can improve that. But with listening, I kind of knew terms such as like noise and like pseudo listening. Like I knew some of those terms, but I didn't necessarily know all of the barriers to effective listening. Like selective attention's another one. Um, all of those though are important to know so that way you can avoid them, of course. And I also found the hero model useful while I was doing my listening reflection assignment during that chapter. Sorry. Another module that stood out to me a lot was building relationships and like the different stages of that. I actually discussed that in my kindness reflection assignment for this module. I actually chose my boyfriend to reflect upon for that assignment, and I looked at like our different stages that our relationship has gone through, and I was able to really like mark a starting point and an end point to each of those stages, and I thought that that was really neat. That was another way that I was able to put meaning behind things this semester. I feel like as I learned new terms, I was really able to look back and reflect on other experiences I've been through in my life and put meaning or a definition to those things, and that was just one of the ways that I was able to do so. Question 2, to enhance my learning this semester, I think I could have really dove deeper into my like reflection assignments. When I was doing the experimenting, I actually did dive a lot deeper on the second one for the kindness reflection versus the listening reflection. I decided to do like a little bit of experimenting for both of those at my job. The listening reflection, I decided to look at like different ways of effective listening and like how I can do that while I'm like taking orders and stuff like that at work. And then for the kindness one, I tested out like different ways of being kind to people, like that I like customers that I see. And I definitely feel like I dove deeper into the second one, and I did take away more from that. So I feel like if I did that the entire semester, I probably could have taken away a little bit more. I think one of my biggest takeaways from this class is that the more effort that you put into interpersonal communication, the more that you receive from it, like beneficiary wise. Um, I think that, like, for instance, with kindness is just one example. Like, the more you put into that, the more you receive back out of it. And I feel like a lot of aspects of communication and interpersonal communication have that kind of effect. For instance, the more you put into a relationship, the more you're usually going to receive out of it, and vice versa. So I feel like that's just something that really stood out to me this semester. And yeah, overall, I feel like it was a really good semester, and I definitely got a lot of good knowledge to take forward with me from this class. Thank you.